Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Excited to be here today doing a request video. Now, we're going to be doing a request video on an older Jeff Nippard video where Jeff Nippard did an experiment with himself and his brother. That video is called How Much Muscle Did I Gain in 365 Days, parentheses, scientific experiment. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this scientific experiment wasn't very scientific. It wasn't a very good controlled experiment, and I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Now, I'm sure Jeff did obviously the best that he could, but today we're going to be discussing why his experiment was actually a complete and utter failure, okay? Now, I know why that sounds a little bit, it might sound a little bit negative. I'm not trying to get down on the guy, but I am just being honest. In the way that I see it as a failure pretty much. We're going to be discussing the entire video in depth, and we're going to be pointing out all the discrepancies that I see when I watch this video. Keep in mind, guys, you will hear an echo, unfortunately, in this room. It has nothing to do with the microphone. It has to do with the fact that, unfortunately, I sold the furniture in my room, and so now there's a huge open space where there's an echo. I'm waiting on more furniture, which should be coming within the next few weeks, so unfortunately, we just have to put up with it for now, unfortunately. So please be patient with me. Enjoy the background music, and hopefully we have a great time today. So in case you guys, and I also have my notes right here because this is a very long video and a lot of information, so I want to do my best to get it right for you. So I'll be looking down at my notes. This video was done quite a while ago, but the whole goal of this was to speak about Jeff Nippard is an advanced trainee who ended up doing an experiment where he ended up getting 2.7 pounds, if I remember correctly, 2.7 pounds of muscle while documenting his journey and documenting his untrained brother's journey. His untrained brother's name is Brad, and this beginner Brad ended up getting, in the end, about 10 pounds, if I remember correctly, of muscle. That is really nice. Now, that's not uncommon for an untrained individual. Keep in mind that lean muscle mass does include things like water, your glycogen, and things of that nature. But what a lot of people missed in that video, what I believe a lot of people missed, you let me know if I'm wrong. And again, I was asked to do this video by a subscriber. Someone specifically said, can you cover this video and break it down for me? So that's what I'm doing. What most people, I believe, missed is the fact that Jeff actually, while being transparent in his video, ended up showing us that his entire experiment here was a big, fascinating case study, basically, on how not to do a perfect study. Even though he was trying to do a perfect study, it ended up being far from perfect. Let's look at these issues that I found, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. So the challenge was for Jeff to train as perfectly as possible for a year and try to gain muscle, considering the fact that the man is, in fact, advanced. Been training for about 10 years at this point, and he stagnated in gains. One of the interesting rules about this challenge is the fact that he's going to be taking every set to failure. Now, if you guys are fans of the channel, which many of you new guys are not, because honestly, the channel wasn't all that great back in the previous years that I've had it, but you guys will know I've spoken over the years that Jeff has been leaving gains on the table. Why? How? Well, the guy never was a huge proponent of training to failure. His training, in my opinion, was always suboptimal because he never really ever trained hard, in my personal opinion. So in this experiment, he's actually going to be doing something right. I believe he's going to be training the final set to failure. Meanwhile, I think you should be training every set to failure. But that's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you do in the comments. So Jeff's going to be training, and his brother, every final set to failure in this video, pushing themselves essentially harder than they've each ever pushed themselves in the past. That's a positive thing. We also have a big negative thing. Okay, what was that big negative thing? The big negative is the fact that Jeff also decides that he's going to be bulking during this. Now, he started off at, I believe, around, 16% body fat, according to his DEXA scan. We can see here on the screen, the guy's looking pretty fluffy, to be honest, at least compared. He looks great, don't get me wrong, but he looks fluffy compared to what he kind of normally looks. At least what we see now, he's pretty shredded most of the time. So I would say that this guy, he started bulking, believing that he could not actually make gains unless he did bulk. But first of all, he went on an insanely aggressive bulk, which was, in my opinion, absolutely not necessary. In fact, he mentions later in the video it's not necessary, even in his own opinion. But I believe he could have, at maintenance here, started his journey. Would he have to add a few hundred calories moving forward? Sure. But look at him. The guy's fluffy. So I think he absolutely could have started making gains on maintenance and maybe pivoted along the way. But I understand he wanted to do his bulk. I get it. But this leads to the question, was it the bulk that caused the gains, or was it the training to failure? You see this? There was two different things being added into the equation, two new factors being added into the equation. And I would argue that if he was typically this weight year-round, he very likely would have been able to make some gains if he was training to failure. But notice those two variables that were introduced here. So this is not a very good study, because in order to make it more efficient, he should have done a study where he trained at this body weight, at this body fat percentage, right, to failure. And then did a separate one, separately, where he trained doing his bulking, perhaps not at failure. Compare those two. Then maybe compare doing them both. So I understand the guy doesn't have all day to be doing tests on himself, but this is the ideal, and this is the fundamental issue with studies. And many people that I've spoken to never put these two things together, and that's why I'm excited to share these things with you today.
I started this experiment at 164.6 pounds, and I'm ending it just over 1 year later at exactly 164.6 pounds.
For any of you that are new to the gym, I'm going to also do the exact same experiment on my biological brother, who's a similar height as me, with the similar genetics, but here's the catch. He does not lift at all.
He's a completely untrained beginner. This way, we'll get to see the difference between someone who's been training for over 15 years versus someone totally new to lifting. You build most of your muscle in your first few years of lifting. Then it slows down. And there's a theory out there that once you've been training for 5 or maybe 10 years, you've built all the muscle you can build. People call this your natural ceiling for muscle growth. And for the last few years, I've been thinking that I've reached it. Despite training as hard as usual, I just haven't really seen any noticeable gains in the last few years. And once you hit your natural ceiling, you have a decision to make. You can either maintain what you've built, saying goodbye to any new gains, or you can take anabolic steroids.
Jeff says that despite training as hard as usual, he hadn't seen any noticeable gains in the last few years. And like I just mentioned, that's likely, in my personal opinion, because at least at this point in time, what he thinks is hard training is not. If I recall correctly, and over a period of years that I've been watching him, I've mentioned in my own videos that I do not believe this guy trains very hard. He trains more intelligently. He relies too much on science, in my personal opinion. Jeff is advanced. The longer you train, the more hard it is, the longer it takes, the more effort and consistency is required to build even more, a minimal more amount of muscle. It's annoying. That's why so many people, unfortunately, hop on the juice. Because, well, these days people are hopping on juice just to hop on the juice because they don't want to wait and put the energy and effort of 10 years of solid natural training. They don't want to do it. So they want results overnight, and so that's why they're hopping on the juice. But before this before this type of person existed, it was more like, hey, I've been training for 10 years. The results are gone. I love training, but I'm not seeing the results. And so my desire, because I'm not seeing the results, is going down. It's like I'm plugging away, doing nothing for no results. I'm doing all this work for no results. I need to see the results, so I'm going to hop on gear or something along those lines. This happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. I believe that if Jeff was just training to failure alone, he probably would have seen the same damn results. But because he's stubborn, or for whatever reason he didn't train to failure in the past, he's ending up doing this experiment now. And now he's doing the extremes. He's training to failure and he's going on an aggressive bulk. How do you know what was what? How do you know what worked? And I also just want to mention here that Jeff says that you have two options. You can either maintain your gains after you hit your natty limit after about 10 years. You can maintain your gains, or you can hop on steroids. Now, he does mention later in the video that, well, we don't know if a natty ceiling or, that 10-year rule exists. We don't know. But at the same time, these are the two options that people have. I just want to say, I don't believe that these are the two options that people have. I think people can grow muscle well over 10 years. It just gets really hard and very slow. It's a slow process.
I've definitely thought about using steroids, but I don't want to.
Okay, I want you to take a look at Jeff here in this photo. I believe that this screenshot of Jeff right now is probably around the same time that he's filming this video. Okay, I could be wrong, but I do believe it is. Look at this dude, how chunky he is. I mean, he is like Chunk City. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not. Guys, I used to weigh about 300 pounds. Okay? So I was Chunk City. I was obese City my entire life. I'm not trying to be mean towards him in this, but look at him. You can barely even see any muscle definition, and he's under downlighting, what appears to be downlighting, okay? So he doesn't even have abs at this point in time. So does he need a bulk? No, he doesn't. That's my opinion. So he could have just literally started training to failure and probably have seen the same results. Just my thoughts. You guys let me know what you think.
I also don't want to just maintain if I can still make gains. As a bodybuilder, making gains is kind of the point, right? And besides, there's really no science on this so-called natural ceiling anyway. It might not even be a real thing. So for me, this experiment will answer the question of whether or not I've reached my natural ceiling, or if I simply haven't been training as hard and smart as I could be. For my brother Brad, it'll show how much muscle a new lifter can gain in 1 year of dedicated training. Upon deeper reflection, I think I have not reached my natural ceiling for muscle growth. I think that if I really give it my all for a full year, I'll see some new growth.
Jeff says that if he really pushed himself, he believes that he could see more muscle growth. That tells you that he was not pushing himself for this entire time. So what I said before, I feel confident in saying again now. He has not been pushing himself. It's been years that he has not been pushing himself. He has some great genetics, in my opinion, to be able to build the mass that he's built without training hard for years, but very likely he's been kind of taking it easy in the gym, maintaining or whatever, or possibly even losing a little bit of results once in a while, whatever. Everybody's goes up and down. But he just needed to push himself harder. He knows he's not pushing himself harder. That's a huge issue here. Effort matters. And so what I don't like is when people see Jeff, at least the way he used to train. I'm not really sure how he trains now, but when people see the way Jeff used to train in the videos that I've seen where he's training like half-assed, people think that if they train like him, they're going to look like him. And it's not true because he doesn't train hard enough.
I'm going to guess that I will gain 4 pounds of muscle. I think Brad will gain
double that. Use this DEXA machine to measure our starting body fat percentage and lean mass. It says that I was 15.8% body fat. That was a bit higher than I expected.
15.8% body fat. Fluff city. He didn't need to bulk. He didn't need to bulk. And as he trained, if he saw that his body fat was going down, if you want to maintain that fluff city, you eat a little more. But did he have to bulk as much as he did? No. The guy's bulked already. He's got enough bulk on him to start doing something.
It also said I had 132.7 pounds of lean mass. Lean mass includes your muscle mass, but it also includes your organs and body water. Brad's starting body fat was 36.2%, also higher than both of us thought.
Brad's body fat was 36.2%. That is extremely, extremely high. Many people underestimate the body fat percentage they had. I spoke to a guy the other day who I trained with, and I asked him, how much body fat do you think you're carrying? What do you think your percentage is at? He said, oh, I think maybe like 14%. The guy's like, I don't know, 30 pounds, 35 pounds overweight. So, many people don't understand, and that's totally cool. But the point is that many people in Brad's position, when they start training, will literally tell you that they are going to bulk. They will tell you, I'm going to bulk because I'm going to be bodybuilding now, so I have to bulk. No, you friggin' don't, bro. You are so overweight that you're literally putting your health at risk. You're walking around at a ridiculously high body fat percentage compared to what you should be, and you're going to bulk more? You're already bulked. You've done the bulk. You're fat already. It's cool. Use it. It's good. You've done the bulk. Use it now. Now, push yourself towards hopefully a recomp where your body fat goes down, the muscle goes up, and you can level off somewhere where you are much leaner with a higher body fat percentage. With a lower body fat percentage and a higher concentration of muscle.
And this is the split we'll be running all year. It's a mix between an upper-lower split and a push-pull leg split. What am I doing differently for this experiment that I wasn't doing already? Well, with training, there are 3 new things. First, I'm taking the last set of every single exercise to failure. Second, I'm only doing optimal exercises. If it doesn't build maximum muscle, I'm not doing it. Third, I'm tracking all my weights for progressive overload. And my goal is to add a little weight or a rep each week.
So you can see he's going to be taking reps to failure. He's going to be only doing optimal exercises, which shows you that he doesn't always do optimal, which is understandable because, he's showing his YouTube channel and everybody, different types of exercises, what might work, why it might, testing what might not work. So that makes sense. But he's going to be doing optimal exercises, and he's also going to be trying to add weight every week, which, I'm interested to see if he can actually do that. I just said that in another video that's not something that many people can do. That is not something that many people can do. Most people, it might take, maybe in the beginning you're adding a lot, but with someone like Jeff especially, who's very advanced, but to add weight every single week, regardless of anything, that's a very tough goal to try to maintain. Sometimes it might take 2 weeks. Sometimes it might take 3 weeks before you get to add weight and be able to execute that weight in proper form. Especially when you're training in a gym like this. You don't have the luxury in gyms like this to be able to add 1 pound to a bar, 2 pounds to a bar, 3 pounds to a bar. No, you have to add like 5 pounds or 10 pounds. So that seems like a very unrealistic goal to have. And I'm curious to see if he touches on it later and tells us if he was able to do it or not.
We're starting with 1 set per exercise in week 1, 2 sets in week 2, and then 3 sets from week 3 on. And yes, he has to run the exact same program as me for scientific control. It's definitely a bit too advanced for him, but I think he can do it. for science.
Now, Jeff mentioned here that his brother is going to have to do the same exact stuff at him. It's not as him. It's not optimal because his brother is a legit beginner, but Jeff thinks he can do it for science. If this guy can keep up with an advanced lifter like Jeff, that right there shows you that Jeff is absolutely not training optimally. That's my opinion. If you got this guy who's been training for I don't even know how many years, well over 10 years, but then this new guy has to keep up with Jeff and can keep up with Jeff, what is Jeff doing? Doesn't make any sense to me.
All you're gonna do is just stick your butt back as you lower the bar straight down with straight legs. Good, and then up.
Oh, that's it?
That's it, that's the whole movement.
It is so weird to me to hear a guy in the same room as Jeff who sounds exactly like Jeff.
All you're gonna do is just stick your butt back as you lower the bar straight down with straight legs. Good, and then up.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
That is so weird.
This was shocking. After just 1 month of training, Brad is already up 12.7 pounds of lean mass. His body fat percentage dropped from 36.2% down to 33.4%. And the ultrasound showed he gained 14 millimeters on his quads and 1 millimeter on his biceps. That's in 1 month.
Bruh.
But my 1 month results were even more surprising.
So wait, how much lean did I gain?
1,400 grams of lean mass, fat-free mass.
Okay, so 1.4 kilos.
Of lean mass.
Believe it or not, I'm also up just over 3 pounds of lean mass. Unlike Brad, I did gain a little fat. My body fat went from 15.8% up to 16.7%. And in 5 months, we'll finish our bulking phase and do another check-in. People say that bulking is pointless because you just get fat. So how fat will we get? That's what we'll see in 5 months. Month mark, we'll do a third check-in. This will be the end of our recomp phase, where we'll try to build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Most people say that's impossible for advanced lifters, but I want to see for myself. Then after 12 months, we'll do our final update. This will be the end of our cut phase. I want to get back down to my starting body weight to see if I'll actually keep the muscle that I gained during my bulk, or if I just lose it all again and look exactly the same as before. Obviously, we're both eating the exact same calories and macros. 3,000 calories, 150 grams of protein, 410 grams of carbs, and 85 grams of fat per day. All this means that I'm eating about 15% above my maintenance calories, and I'm aiming to gain around 2 pounds per month. Now, obviously, Brad shouldn't be bulking at 33% body fat. To get his best possible transformation, I should absolutely put him in a 5 to 20% caloric deficit and have him lose fat while building muscle.
Right. So I appreciate the amount of consistency that Jeff is trying to have here. But as he mentioned, gratefully he did mention this, Jeff and Brad were at the same exact amount of calories, right? So this is a terrible thing for Brad. Why? Well, like I said before, the guy's already extremely overweight, and you are now increasing his calories, where in reality, you should be lowering his calories, or at the very least, keeping him at the same calories and allowing him to train so that his body can put himself in a deficit just because of the training and start to lose weight. So this is detrimental to Brad, both in his results, because you're making him gain weight. His body's going to be less efficient now. He already has a ton of weight already. So you're making him gain weight. And so his results are going to be less good. And he's going to have to cut more later on to try to cut down on all the extra fat, because he's literally just going to gain weight. He's going to just gain weight. So not the ideal, but I get why he did it for this particular, circumstance. I mean, the man was at damn near 40% body fat, and now he's eating more. As we know, in the end, Brad actually did end up gaining 10 pounds of lean muscle mass, which is excellent. very close to what Jeff Nippard thought in the beginning of the video that he would gain. But he ended up having to go through like Fat City to do it. And Jeff's over here wanting to break his natural limit, so he's having 3,000 calories a day, which if it's only 15% more than what he typically eats, like he mentioned in the video, it's only 15% more. 15% doesn't sound like a lot, but that means he's eating something around like 2,600 calories normally. He increased it by 15%. Now he's at approximately 3,000. That shows you right there the fact that he mentions later on in the video that he actually gained too much weight. It shows you he never had to increase the calories in the first place. He literally gained weight on only adding 400 more or so calories a day if he tracked properly.
And I didn't realize I ate so much fat. Every night it's like, I've run out of fat, but I got like 30 carbs left. So I just gotta drink a glass of orange juice.
We can see Brad here weighing his pizza, saying that at the end of the day, he needs to have more carbs, so he's drinking orange juice. This is, I get it's a study, right? But if it wasn't a study, this is the stupidest thing that this guy could be doing. Look at his face and tell me he needs pizza. Look at it. Do you think he needs pizza? He doesn't need pizza. Pizza is the last thing that he needs. Orange juice? Are you kidding me? Orange juice, bro? It's literally soda. So you do have people like Brad out there. You do. And they think, oh yes, I need to eat more in order to exercise. And I'm trying to drill this point in that you do not. If you are already fat, you do not need to get fatter. It's the truth. Look at him and tell me, look at his face right here. Tell me that I am wrong. You do not have to. And if anybody tells you that you have to, they have no idea what they're talking about. Don't believe it. There's no reason for you to put your health at risk more if you're already overweight, or even put yourself at risk, even if you're not overweight, put yourself at risk, by over bulking in the first place. There's no reason for it.
I've just been staring at this orange juice now for like 10 minutes. I really just don't want to drink it. I kind of just hate orange juice now.
Push it! Push it! You're so close. Oh, no.
I'm 2 months into the experiment, and I'm doing a 3-week writing retreat in Mexico with Steph. While there are more temptations and very delicious tacos and tequila down here, with a 3,000 calorie per day bulking budget, I was able to fit in a little Mexican delicacy without any issues. I was starting to get sick, and my body was definitely overworking. I'm actually not feeling too well today, and so this is going to be the first day that I skip a workout that I have scheduled. Yeah, if I went to the gym today, I just know it would be a subpar workout, whereas if I rest today and then go tomorrow, I'll probably perform much better, or hopefully anyway. So,
all right, so Jeff talks about how he had to do a deload, he was sick, he was overworking. So that could be a combination of work, traveling when you travel, because he mentioned he went to Mexico, where he stayed to do a large majority of his work. So all of these things, traveling, training, recording, editing, all these things. Yes, he's putting a lot of stress and strain on his body. Also, he has his life outside of that, right? He's got his girlfriend at the time, Steph. I don't know if they're still together, but all this stuff will contribute to him feeling run down, and he needed a rest day. So automatically, like the perfect thing of, hey, I trained perfectly for a year, went out the window. Now, he did mention that he took the rest day because his intention is to train better when he comes back. I agree. We just did a video where I discussed with Sam Sulik on screen, of course, right? I discussed that, yes, I agree. When you are feeling very sick, well, what can happen is you might even be sick because you are overtraining, just because you're overtraining, or because you're just pushing yourself. I discussed that it's best for you to get better first. Yes, I agree. I think Jeff was correct. Many times after I do a leg day, I bust my butt in the gym, okay? After I do a leg day, when I really push myself, I will get sick that day or the very next day. It's just what happens. My wife already knows. Now, there is such a thing as having too much lactic acid in your body, which can cause you to get like fevers and things of that nature. Or it could also be that plus a combination of your immune system going down and you being already susceptible to an illness. A bug was in the air or something like that. Where now, because your immune system's down, the bug that your body was fighting very well and you didn't feel the symptoms of, now the bug takes over because your immune system went down because you trained very hard, and now it overtakes you. So you have to rest. That's just a reality of life. But notice how there's no way to have a perfect control. There's no way. But he's doing his best here to get back on track. And so it's probably going to be as perfect as possible according to human error, which I'm only saying this. A lot of you might be like, well, of course, Joe, we already know that. I'm saying this for those people who don't understand that. Many people think that studies are perfect circumstances. They are not. And so that's what I'm trying to show you in this.
My dad immediately commented on how much bigger I'm looking, and that's definitely true when I'm wearing clothes. But I think I'm actually looking softer and kind of smaller in my posing updates. Brad is definitely up in weight too, but the main thing I noticed is that he's so much stronger. It's kind of insane. He's actually getting close to using some of the weights that I'm using on back exercises. That's definitely his strong point.
Now, Jeff's pops mentioned how much bigger he's looking, and Jeff feels like he's actually looking softer. That makes sense. When you are natural like Jeff is, when you gain fat, which Jeff said softer, when you gain fat, you look bigger in clothes. I've said this in multiple videos already that you guys may have noticed. You will look bigger in your clothes, but when you take your shirt off, you will look less good, less big, more soft, more fluffy. Jeff is gaining fat. He's gaining fat. When you are training for muscle hypertrophy, muscle growth, you don't necessarily want to be gaining that much fat. Okay? Now, his brother is a prime example of how well someone can adapt to strength. I've said this in many videos as well. You can get strong very quickly. It does not mean that you will gain a ton of muscle. Does it look like in these videos, these clips, does it look like he's gained a ton of muscle mass? No, it doesn't. So when you hear someone say that muscle mass and strength are directly correlated, I am telling you, like I've said a million times, they are absolutely not. If you lift heavier weights because you're stronger, yes, you will by default build larger muscles to a degree, but they are not necessarily related. They are not necessarily correlated. The heavier you lift, no. The more muscle you'll build, no, it's not true. You can see power lifters who are natural, who are very small. They hardly have any size, but they're lifting 500, 600 pounds with ease. Okay? So when someone tells you, oh, you just have to lift heavy, that's not true. Strength is a byproduct of repetition, practice. It's something you can get good at. It's a skill. Strength is a skill. Brad is becoming more skilled at lifting, and his body is adapting. Okay? But muscle size is a byproduct of muscle breakdown over time. Volume. I'm ripping my muscle fibers apart through repetition. Over time, they need to grow back, and they grow back bigger. Brad is looking a bit more trim from what I can tell. Not by a lot, but a bit more trim. Why might that be? He is growing muscle. You may not be able to physically see too much of it, but he is growing muscle. His muscles need more calories in order to function, in order to grow. They need more calories to physically grow. So some of the calories he's eating is going to the muscle. And that is the point behind a bulk, guys. That is the point. The point is you want to eat enough calories for your muscles to take it and grow without having the extra calories there to gain fat. So I know that many of you know this, but there are some people who do not. I was asked to do this video and explain this. That is why I am doing it. I'm not talking to you like your children. I know you know this, many of you, but some people don't. And some people are humble enough to say, I don't know. And so that's why I'm doing this.
And I was starting to worry that maybe we were both gaining a bit too much weight.
What would you say is something that you're most surprised by so far?
I'm noticing that my social anxiety is almost gone completely. And that was debilitating at times. Like, you would go to a store and you just turn around in the parking lot and be like, yeah, not today. But now I don't even find myself like thinking about anything as I'm like going up to a counter, or if I'm approaching like customer services, I'll just go ask for something now. Before I was like, I'm figuring this out myself because I'm not getting any help.
Now, this is something that I find to be incredible and worth touching on. Brad says that one of the biggest things he's noticed is the fact that he's more confident. He's walking around more confident. That's a beautiful thing. I told you guys in a video the other day, one of the reasons why I started training in the first place was because I was bullied. I was being bullied. And so I started training to get bigger. And guess what? After I got bigger, no one bullied me. Ever. Ever. So that is a beautiful thing to see, that he was able to fix that horrible social anxiety that quickly. Amazing. And guess what? He doesn't even, look that much different. So it was here. It was all here, because he does not look that much different. He looks a little different, sure, but he does not look that much different. He's gained self-confidence, and he's barely even made a change. He's scratching the surface. So just imagine what 2 or 3 or 4 years of training like this, hard, consistent, and losing weight could actually do for this man, and for all of you, and for me, and for everybody.
Brad's feeling motivated too. He's much more of a night owl than me, so he'll often train later at night, but he still hasn't skipped a single workout.
Now, Jeff just mentioned that Brad is more of a night owl than Jeff. Now, I understand that Brad has a life. He's got a job, he probably has a family or whatever. So the guy can't train at all the same exact times as Jeff. But in theory, if this was an actual study or something of that nature, all these people involved should be training at the same exact time. Why? Energy levels vary throughout the day. And people's energy levels in general are different. Some people feel more energized at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon than they do at 8 a.m. Some people are the opposite. But really, it should be at the same time, in theory. So that's a big deal. If he's training at night, do you really think he's going to have more energy than Jeff, who was training in the beginning of the day? Absolutely not. So right there, you can see his results, in my opinion, Brad's results on how much weight, mass, muscle that he gained were skewed. Because if he trained when he had more energy, the guy would definitely, in my opinion, have been able to build a little bit more.
Just like that, the end of the bulk, and it's time to see how much muscle we put on and how much fat we put on.
All right, dude. Ready for the 6-month physique check-in?
Yeah, let's do it. Give me a flex.
Give me a shoulder flex.
Like just kind of. Yeah.
All right, so you can see on Brad's physique here that he definitely did gain more like size, but you can't see any definition. He's trying to flex as hard as he can, but he looks soft almost everywhere. That's because of the fat, guys, and you might know this, but again, I was asked to explain this. It's because of the fat, okay? You're going to see a lot more definition on Jeff because, first of all, his muscles are a lot larger, and he's probably, in comparison, the body fat percentage is obviously going to be less because Jeff is not going to be bulking up to like 45% body fat because he started off at a lower amount already. Point being is, if this guy was to rip down, tear down, he would look insane. He would look amazing. Most people, even if they don't have a lot of muscle, look insane when they're ripped. Let this be a lesson. If you don't have the time to spend all day in the gym, just spend a little time in the gym and spend more time perfecting your diet or perhaps doing some cardio to lose the weight. You can look incredible. And as you lose weight, even though you physically get smaller, when you take off your shirt, you're going to look bigger. Because the definition, the 3D-ness of the muscles, the depth of the muscles, whereas when you're heavier, you just look soft. Now, again, like I mentioned, when you're heavier and you look soft, when you put a shirt on, you're going to look more bulky. It's weird, but that's the dynamic.
At the end of the 6-month bulk, Brad is up 13 pounds of lean mass, and his body fat percentage is down 1.2%. He went from 36.2% at the beginning to 35.0% now, and that's while eating 3,000 calories per day. It really goes to show the power of building muscle. Regardless, his 6-month trend shows impressive body recomposition, being up 13 pounds of lean mass while being down 1.2% body fat.
He still ended up gaining approximately 4.1 pounds of fat. Now that tells us something. What does that tell us? That's proof right there that he did not need to bulk. Because even though his body fat percentage went down relative to his lean mass, he still gained fat. So if he did not eat in a surplus, he would have been totally fine, which is the proof that recomping, guys, does work. And it does exist, depending on the body fat percentage that you are initially starting with. It also shows us something else, which I'm very excited to talk about, and I will expand upon later in the video as well. But many people believe that when you lift weights, because of things like your metabolism going up, because of things like your muscles needing more calories and taking some of the calories away from the fat stores, and because of something called EPOC, many people believe that training with weights hardcore is going to cause you to lose all this weight. Oh, you don't have to do any cardio. You don't have to watch your diet. Oh no, I've had people tell me, oh yes, I've just trained with weights and I've lost all this muscle, and I've done, not muscle, fat, but I've done videos on this disproving it. And this disproves it right here. He's busting his butt. He put on 13 pounds of muscle, and yet he gained 4 pounds of fat. If any of the stuff that these people tell you is true, oh yeah, you lose all your weight from bodybuilding, it's not true. It's not true. If that was the case, bodybuilders wouldn't have to cut. They wouldn't have to cut before competition. They are full-blown muscle, practically. Why do they cut? Why do they watch their diet? Why do they do cardio? It's because muscle building does not burn fat the same way that cardio and a calorie deficit is. You got all these people out there who are brainwashed. Don't forget this, guys. Don't be brainwashed like everybody else. Don't put yourself in a position to end up getting fat and wasting your time and putting your health at risk when you could literally just start to lose the weight now and build muscle at the same time.
Get the results? Are they in?
They're in.
After 6 months of fully optimized training, and with more than 15 years of training already under my belt, I added 4.5 pounds of lean mass. The thing was, I also gained, ready for this, 11 pounds of fat. That's a bit much. It means my body fat went from 15% at the beginning to just over 20% now. I'm kind of excited to cut down and see how much muscle I retain.
So we can see that Jeff actually ended up gaining some lean mass, but he ended up also gaining a ton of fat as well. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that because he gained 11 pounds of fat, that he never had to go on a bulk, ever. And that the only reason why he gained the muscle he did was because he started training hard and to failure on one of his reps. So just imagine if he actually trained hard in general and actually trained to failure on more than one rep, how much muscle he can build. He's wasting his time in the gym, essentially, if he doesn't. This is proof right here. Now, another reason why he ended up gaining so much weight is because his body is less efficient at building muscle because, he is more advanced. So more calories went towards fat and less towards muscle because he can't build as much. But it doesn't matter. He did not have to bulk in order to build the muscle. He could have been building muscle for years, in fact, if he was only training properly. And he could have did it at maintenance, for God's sakes. So to put this in perspective, he gained muscle despite not because of the bulk, despite the bulk, despite the inefficiency of not training to failure, not because of it. Now, he said he's excited to cut down and see how much muscle he's actually going to retain after the cut. Because now's the hard part, guys. Now you're eating less, you're watching your weight, and you're still trying to maintain your numbers in the gym, despite the lower energy, despite maybe feeling, less, more lethargic because you're trying to cut down. There's also the opposite effect where as he cuts down, he might feel a little more energy because he's well overweight from where he should be. So you have that as well. But just keep in mind, guys, he ended up gaining that 4.5 pounds of muscle or whatever. He's not going to keep all of it. And he ended up gaining 11 pounds of fat. That return on investment is garbage. Absolute crap. That's like eating a protein bar that will cost you like 400 calories. There's like 400 calories in the bar, and it only being 6 grams of protein. Because those protein bars exist. Oh yeah, protein bar, 400 calories, 7 grams of protein. What the hell is that? If you found an efficient protein bar, you could find like 160 calorie protein bar with 15 grams of protein, something along those lines. 20 grams of protein, whatever the case is, right? So extremely inefficient. It's a terrible return on investment. This is what bulking does to you. And he only bulked by 400 calories. He only bulked by 400 calories. Does it make any sense that people are going on 1,000-calorie bulks, especially when they're already overweight? Absolutely not.
For the recomp phase, we're dropping our calories down to 2,800 calories per day, which MacroFactor says is our new maintenance intake. And these will be our new macros to follow for the next 3 months. And again, our goal for this phase is to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time while maintaining our weight. 1 month into the recomp phase, Brad and I went to Japan for 3 weeks.
Trip, we're gonna do as much walking as possible.
I found it hard to get enough protein in, and we both got a little more flexible with our diet than would have been truly optimal.
Body split, full body, 3 days a week, and that'll just allow us to get in slightly more efficient workouts and not spend quite so much time in the gym so we can actually enjoy Japan.
Keep in mind that Jeff just mentioned that he changed his split in order to be able to enjoy Japan. During a study that's actually efficient, you would not be doing this. You'd be sticking to the main idea, but it is what it is. We know that this isn't like a really scientific experiment, but just wanted to point that out.
The month of September flew by, and it was time for our post-recomp check-in. Did I manage to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, or did I just spin my wheels for the last 3 months? Let's find out.
Moment of truth.
Turns out, I actually lost 0.8 pounds of lean mass since our last check-in. That's within the DEXA's margin of error, but it's still a bit disappointing. It's also kind of what I expected. At my level of advancement, I think you really need at least a slight caloric surplus to keep muscle growth moving. Maintenance calories probably just won't cut it. I guess it's also possible that switching to the full body split and our time in Japan threw me off a bit, but I was still training super hard and I was still eating a high protein diet.
All right, so Jeff weighed in and he ended up losing 0.8% of lean body mass. Jeff is over here telling you that, I think you need more than maintenance in order to build muscle. Well, yeah, obviously you need a little more than maintenance, but he thought he had to bulk when he was already above like what his maintenance, like he was already too fat already. So why did he lose 0.8% lean mass? Well, first of all, the guy changed up his split, right? He shouldn't have did that. As I just mentioned, he shouldn't have did that. Then he went to enjoy Japan. No problem. That whole experience is going to change everything. It's going to change so much more than you could possibly imagine. And third of all, the guy is on a cut. The DEXA scan picks up water weight, glycogen, as lean body mass. So it could just be that he was retaining less water overall, and it was water that ended up going down. Doesn't mean it was necessarily muscle that he lost. He's upset about it, I get it. But it wasn't all muscle anyway. And the margin of error for a DEXA scan, according to what Jeff just mentioned, it's within the margin of error. So why he's upset, I get it, but really when you look at it, these are the facts right here. He didn't lose much muscle, hardly any. He ended up just losing some water weight likely, or, he's not training as hard, his split changed, things of that nature. It's negligible. It's negligible. And he said that he didn't think maintenance calories was enough to drive new growth for him. I hate to break it to you, but the guy's still on the heavier side. He's still on the heavier side. In my opinion, he could still be gaining muscle. He just likely is not pushing himself hard enough. For years, he thought he was. He wasn't. He said it himself. Oh, I think if I push myself hard enough, I'll gain more. He's not pushing himself as hard. So that coupled with the fact that now he's lowered his calories, he probably has less energy, he's going to be pushing himself less hard. I don't believe that his new maintenance calories is even accurate. I think he's still eating more than what he needs to. I think his new maintenance, the Macro Factor app gave him a certain amount of calories for his new maintenance. I still think it's wrong. So this is my personal opinion based on the way he visibly looks.
You see, at every check-in, we've also been testing our muscle strength using this Biodex isokinetic dynamometer. Basically, you just press against this foot pad as hard as you can, and the computer measures how hard you pushed. Since the beginning of the experiment, Brad's strength has trended up. My strength also trended up, but not by as much as Brad's. And at my last check-in, it was down a bit. So this time, I was determined to have my best strength test yet. I buckled myself into the machine, and on command, I pressed as hard as I possibly could. I got a massive isokinetic dynamometer PR of 359.2 Newton meters.
Now notice they've been tracking their strength, and so he was told by the machine that his strength went down. Just through sheer effort and will, he got it to skyrocket. Okay, now they take 3 measurements, so we'll see where the next one is. But the point that I'm trying to get across is Jeff, as well as every single one of us, is in our own heads to a large degree. So you would end up, going down in strength or something along those lines, and then I'm thinking, oh, I'm just getting weaker. Maybe just not trying hard enough. He's proving that is the case right here. So keep that in mind. When he says, oh, I don't think I can maintain on just maintenance calories, which I think, again, are already too high, it might not be the case because he just literally willed himself to do more. So you see how, this is proof here that studies, no matter how consistent they are, they're not consistent.
No, hold on. No, hold on. I felt something really weird in my knee.
And I injured my knee. Partially torn tendon. So that sucks. I'm leaving this recomp phase not only having gained 0 muscle in the last 3 months, but with a freshly injured knee. Not an ideal way to kick off the cut, but this is just a normal part of training. I think you could make the case that the more you try to optimize, the higher your risk of having a setback is as well. Even though in this case, I don't think it had anything to do with my training. I think it was just being fasted, not having anything to eat, and then having to go and do an all-out isometric strength test is probably not like the safest thing in the world. And we also, because of like time constraints and everything, didn't do any warm-up before that test. So regardless, it is what it is. It happens. Could have been worse.
So on the second strength test, Jeff actually got a partially torn tendon in his leg. Bro, that sucks. He mentioned that it could have been because he was fasting. Now, I don't recall if he said whether or not he was hydrated. Fasting, the guy ate 8 hours earlier, probably, dinner. So it had nothing to do with fasting that he ended up tearing something. If he was dehydrated, that could absolutely have something to do with it. If he was not drinking any fluids, absolutely. But the biggest thing is that he literally tells us here, he tells us, we didn't warm up. We didn't warm up. And I tell you guys so many times how important it is to warm up because if not, you will get injured. And he did not warm up and he got injured. He's over here pushing himself to the max in order to get the highest strength score that he can get. And he ended up getting injured. Why would you do this without warming up? Well, he said he didn't have a lot of time. Not a great excuse, because now, because you didn't want to save, because you wanted to save 5 minutes, you're going to spend 5 months in rehab. Literally, right? So that's the idea. That's one of the takeaways I want you guys to know. Give yourself the time to warm up, because if not, you will regret it later. 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 months, 10 months. Even if it's 10 days, even if it's 10 weeks, it's too much time taken away from your normal daily routine.
It's officially
Time to start the cut.
Nice. I am tired of having extra weight on, and I'm excited to get into some like cleaner eating and just like not having to gorge myself every day.
Yeah, for a cut, we're dropping down to 2,200 calories per day and bumping our protein up to 190 grams. It's actually really exciting to have a new goal, and I'm pumped to see Brad finally start his weight loss journey.
So now they're doing the cut, not the maintenance phase, and that is excellent. They're dropping their calories to 2,200, which is very low. Well, not very low, but it's a good amount in order to cut on. You will see weight come off quickly with, based on these guys' criteria. So that's excellent. I would have even said you probably could have did 2,500, but this is, I would think like a little more of an aggressive cut for these particular guys. It's great. You're going to see the weight come off.
1 rep shy of failure on compound lifts. That's just because I really didn't want an upper body injury to deal with too.
So here we noticed that Jeff said he ended up changing again, because he didn't want to get an injury, which I understand, changing the criteria. He is no longer doing to failure on compound lifts, only on isolated, I believe he said. That's fine, but in a study, you wouldn't be changing these variables, okay? So keep these things in mind. Again, I think Jeff doesn't push himself hard in general, honestly. Based on some of the older videos that I've seen, I have not really seen any of his more recent videos. And so just something to keep in mind.
Still pushing the last sets of all the isolation exercises to failure though. And with some good visual changes happening, we were both determined to hold on to as much of that muscle we built as humanly possible. At the 1 year mark, Brad and I aren't quite back to our starting body weight yet, and I really need us to both get back to the weight we started the experiment at for the true test of net muscle gain.
I'm going to extend it until March under the assumption that we're both giving it 100%.
I'm so excited for this to be done. It's been so long.
It blew my mind that we both nailed the weigh-ins exactly to the decimal. I started this experiment at 164.6 pounds, and I'm ending it just over 1 year later at exactly 164.6 pounds. It's from the start of the experiment to now, he's up 10 pounds of lean mass and down, get this, 10 pounds of fat mass. That's incredible. And his final strength test was also his best ever. I gained 2.7 pounds of lean mass. I definitely see the biggest difference in my chest and my back, but I see some gains in my shoulders and hamstrings too. Now, if you remember, the reason I cut down is because I really wanted to see how much muscle I'd retain from my bulk. So at the end of my bulk, I was up 4.5 pounds of lean mass, and now I'm still up 2.7 pounds of lean mass. So yes, I did retain most of those gains while cutting down. I kept more than half the lean mass that I put on, which I think is pretty solid. I'm also leaner now. I started the experiment at 15.8% body fat, and now I'm down to 14.5% body fat. So not only did I shred all the 11 pounds of fat that I put on during the bulk, I also lost another 2 pounds of fat beyond that. Am I gonna use steroids? No. I think I proved to myself that I can still make gains, even 15 years deep, if I really commit. If I had my time back, I think I would have bulked a little less aggressively. I think that if I had gained, say, half the weight during my bulk, I may have gained a similar amount of lean mass, but with less fat.
All right, so we can see that the natty ceiling, based on what Jeff said in the beginning of the video, 10 years, no more, we can see that that's not true. We can see that he actually applied himself to hard work and training, and he was able to gain 2.7 pounds of lean mass at the end of his cut. So he even mentioned here that he believes that he was too aggressive in his bulk. Absolutely freaking was, like I said in the beginning. So another thing that a lot of people didn't catch here, and Jeff didn't mention it that I noticed, maybe I missed it, but he didn't mention the fact that his so-called perfect plan was basically just destroyed by real life happening. This guy ended up getting injured. He injured his tendon, which means he was training less hard, less heavy, less often likely, and therefore, how is it possible that he could have only gained 2.7 pounds of muscle in the end? How is that an accurate representation? It is not. It is not accurate. I argue that if he did not get hurt, he would have gained more muscle. And I don't think he mentioned that in the video. I think he would have gained more muscle. That's my thoughts. You let me know what you guys think in the comments. That's a huge variable that affected a lot of things, okay? And I think that's what a lot of people missed. And so in general, because of his overly aggressive bulk and the fact that he ended up getting injured, those two things I believe actually prevented him from gaining more than 2.7 pounds of muscle. And because his bulk was overly aggressive, my point is, you didn't need to bulk. You could have stayed at maintenance and got the same exact freaking result. We are looking at the results despite the major setbacks, despite the horrible bulk, despite the injury, despite the changing of the routine in the middle and going to Japan and living your best life. Despite that, okay? So if he didn't get injured, if the bulk was good, if he didn't change things up, I think he would have did even better. He would have gained more, maybe closer to the 4 that he initially thought that he could have gained. There's no way we can tell, but it is what it is. So the question that you might be asking yourself is, should I bulk? Well, that really depends. What body fat percentage are you at currently? What level of training are you at currently? You can see they were at 2 different levels of body fat. They were at 2 different levels of training. A newbie is going to gain more muscle more fast than someone who's advanced, okay? A person who has more body fat does not need to bulk in comparison to someone who does not have body fat. And even Jeff's body fat was still too high in the beginning. Even Jeff's body fat, which is ridiculous. Most people have a higher body fat percentage than what Jeff had. I think it's important for you guys to understand that every lifter is going to need a caloric surplus, okay? To a degree. Well, at least unless you're already bulked up already. If you start off at a lower percentage of body fat, add about 300 calories or so, see where that goes. If you're gaining weight and it's fat, you can visually see it's fat, maybe you need to just dial back those calories. You just want enough in order to build the muscle. Give the muscle the calorie it needs in order to facilitate growth. So you may actually hear less of an echo in here now because we just got a couch delivered. Anyway, let's get back to this. So essentially, to maximize muscle growth, guys, every lifter needs a caloric surplus. I recommend approximately 300 calories. See where your weight goes from there. If you start to gain a ton of fat, visually, you can see it in the mirror because we're not all getting DEXA scans, then you can lower the weight. Depending on where you're starting from, you may not even need a caloric surplus if you're overweight already. I think it was like maybe 6 or 7 years ago when I got really heavily into the training. I started at approximately 300 pounds. Did I need to eat more? Absolutely friggin' not. I did a recomp and then I cut. So I can tell you, you don't need to, if you are already obese, gain more weight to build muscle. And we saw this with Brad. We even saw it with freaking, what's his name? With freaking Jeff Nippard. We saw it with him too. Even he ended up gaining weight where he was at. Keep in mind, he was advanced, okay? So he's building less muscle. The calories will work a little bit differently. Now, if you're lean, if you're very lean and you don't have fat stores to pull from that will allow you to build muscle and lose weight at the same time, then yes, eat a little bit more by all means and experiment. Don't get fat for no reason, guys, unless you want to. Now, another thing that I want to mention is, all this being said, ties into two huge myths that I've tried to debunk in other videos, and I'm going to do so again here, okay? In the fitness industry, we can see that Jeff's fat gain actually disproves when people think that if I just build a bunch of muscle and train hard, I will automatically lose weight. Many people believe this. It is not true. Bodybuilding, muscle gaining is not any way that you are going to get cut and ripped. It's not going to happen, okay? How do you get cut and ripped? Energy expenditure and or a calorie deficit. Muscle is, in fact, metabolically active, as we mentioned earlier in the video. Your muscle needs calories in order to grow, but it's not like, you know, some kind of a magic thing that's going to just destroy all this fat. 1 pound of muscle burns approximately 6 to 10 calories worth of fat at rest. So you're not going to be losing a ton of weight, burning 6 to 10 extra calories because you put on 1 pound of muscle. In fact, 10 pounds of muscle, like what this gentleman here, Jeff's brother, ended up gaining, that comes out to like around 100 calories on the good end of the spectrum. You can inhale 100 calories breathing next to a bagel. You know what I'm saying? Breathing next to half a bagel, a quarter of a bagel. You can eat a bag of Skittles, and all of a sudden, all the fat you burn through your muscle is gone. So don't think that building muscle is going to be the magical, the magical bullet that's going to help you to lose all this weight. And next, let's talk about the afterburn effect, or EPOC. So many people think that, oh, for hours and days after doing heavy training, you're losing all this weight from EPOC. Your internal systems are just burning through all that fat because of your bodybuilding that you did. Absolutely friggin' not. We saw that here in this video. These guys gained weight after training, okay? They gained weight. If EPOC was that amazing, you wouldn't be gaining weight. If bodybuilding was that great at making you lose weight, they never would have gained weight. Jeff would never even be fat. And again, bodybuilders need to do cuts before competitions. That's because bodybuilding doesn't make you lose weight. It makes you bigger as far as muscle, but muscle is not that metabolically active to the point where you're going to lose all those calories. The stats for EPOC are that it will burn between 6% to 15% more of the calories that you burned during the actual workout. So I have this example here. If you burned 400 calories while lifting, the afterburn might burn between 40 and 60 calories, guys. You won't even notice that. EPOC and, oh, I'm bodybuilding, it's not an excuse to you, unless you want it to be, but it's not really an excuse to be like, oh, I need to eat so much more in order to build this muscle because I'm going to lose all this weight at the same time. Jeff literally put on 11 pounds of fat, and he's bodybuilding like every single day, and he already has a substantial amount of fat of muscle on him. And even Jeff ended up gaining weight. So you can see that these two myths exist, and they are not actual facts. They are simply just myths. And again, Jeff would have did much better if he just didn't bulk and didn't end up getting injured. He would have ended up probably building closer to 4 pounds of muscle. That's my personal opinion. Legs are huge, a huge deal. When you start putting mass onto your legs, that could be a substantial amount of mass. So I do believe that with his upper body, if he was able to build approximately 2.7 pounds, he probably would have been able to build maybe another 2 pounds on his lower body. So, it sucks that he ended up getting hurt. But guys, I really hope you liked this video. Let me know if you appreciated it. Tell me in the comments. I am tired and I have to go put this couch together. I will catch you all